Hi, and welcome to another live episode of Marketplace Masters, brought to you by Merchant Spring, the leading marketplace analytics platform from Amazon agencies and vendors. Marketplace Masters strives to go deeper into the challenges that vendors face to lift channel performance via really practical actions and insights. I'm your host, Paul Sonneveld, and today we're going to uncover Net PPM and how it can help you grow your Amazon channel. Now, to help us do this, I have again invited Asha to come and share her expertise with us. Asha is the founder of Ethiopia Consultancy, a results-driven Amazon strategy consultancy offering e-commerce expertise to a variety of global brands. She's worked at Amazon and now she manages the marketplace from the other side of the table. Due to this distinctive position, she has the ability to strategically navigate Amazon for consumer brands, and she loves dissecting Amazon as a sales and marketing platform, or highlighting what that truly means for a business. Thanks again for being on the show today, Asha.
Hi, Paul. Thank you for having us.
You're most welcome. We love tapping into your expertise. I know you spend a lot of time on the, shall I say, dark side or on the other side. One of us. But I know you know there's a wealth of information here. And today we're focusing on a very, I guess, granular but specific topic when it comes to Amazon vendors, which is called Net PPM. It's a bit of a tongue twister. I think it stands for Net Pure Profit Margin. Could have got that wrong. You can correct me later if you want. But very, very important. But before we even start to dissect it, what I want to do first, Asha, is to understand, Net PPM, we always hear about it, but in the shoes of an Amazon vendor manager, so on the other side, what is the role of Net PPM in their daily life?
So I want to answer this question in quite a recent conversation I've been having about Amazon as a retailer and the journey that they've been on. And as consultants, we work with vendors that are always coming to us and say that their Net PPM is a challenge for Amazon. So what do they do about that? So we need to first understand Amazon's life cycle as a retailer to then understand the importance of Net PPM. So if we take it right back many, many years ago, when I was at Amazon as a retailer was in this stage of expanding into different categories. And so therefore it was all about selection. Therefore, profitability wasn't a huge concern to them. We then entered what I call like a middle phase of Amazon as the retailer. And that's when, we had introductions to things like brand stores, Amazon advertising. And so Amazon as a retailer were empowered by opening up their platform as a huge marketing platform. We're now in this very different way of trading with Amazon, and their focus is all on profitability. And that is where the introduction to Net PPM really comes in. These vendor managers, these brands, all had to care about at that time was to drive selection on Amazon and market it really well. And now the laser focus from Amazon is, how does Amazon also make money? How do you find a win-win business model? And so when we hear about the amount of redundancies that Amazon are about to go through again, and the drive and focus to increase profitability on this business, when you look at it from a retail side of it, vendor managers do have targets to ensure that the Net PPM in their category is at the highest. Now, a question that we get asked is, what is that percentage? And the truth is, every category has different percentages. But rough and tough, we're talking anywhere between 30 and 40%. And a vendor manager is KPI'd into ensuring that his or her vendors are bringing 30 to 40% Net PPM to that category.
And given the focus on profitability, like the increasing focus versus where Amazon has been, I mean, it might be hard to answer, but so is there an expectation? If I were to ask an Amazon vendor right now to increase that Net PPM year on year, so are they looking for, I don't know, 100, 200 sort of basis point expansion year on year? Is that the game this year?
Let's separate trading terms and increasing basis points from Net PPM. If your products, if your brand is not delivering Amazon a return and Amazon is not making a profit from it, I ask you a question: why should they continue to support and sell your products and brand? What's in it for Amazon? So I want to separate terms. Trading terms and an increase in trading terms is what the vendor manager, without a doubt, is focused on at trading terms. But there is an overarching goal to ensure that Net PPM is as best as it possibly can be, and Amazon are generating a profit from selling your products.
Yep, makes sense. I mean, in many ways, I've spent many years in retail, and a lot of this is actually just good retail disciplines, right? And which are so important now. Now that all the other kind of phases are over. So I've mentioned the word Net PPM probably 5 or 6 times, but I couldn't give you a clear definition of what it actually is. And I was going to ask you, can you give us and the rest of the audience a great definition? And particularly, I'd love to just understand, you mentioned trading terms as well there, what's in that number, what's out of that number?
Yeah, so look, Net PPM stands for pure product margin. You said profit, it's product, just to add to that. And it can be tracked at 2 different levels. One's at ASIN level and one's at account level. And at ASIN level, it is calculating your average selling price minus the cost price plus vendor negotiated terms divided by average selling price. There's a bit of a formula to it. And at account level, you're looking at shipped revenue minus product cost of goods sold, add any terms minus any sales discount. So there's some formulas in it. Now, the good news is you don't need to remember the formulas. In Vendor Central, there is the ability to run your own Net PPM analysis. Now, that is actually the most important element. It is about, understanding the importance of Net PPM, and the second is then tracking it. And this historically has not been done. So when we talk about the type of era that we're in with Amazon, and Amazon vendor managers are talking to you about Net PPM, this isn't a conversation that you're only going to have at trading terms with your vendor manager. This is ongoing conversations you will have if you're lucky to have a vendor manager, or with your AVS. Or if you have got challenges with receiving purchase orders, that is where the first place I would do a bit of a deep dive on is, let's look at your Net PPM and have you been tracking it? What historically has been your Net PPM margin, and have there been any challenges to that? Now, a good business needs to remain really, really close to the analytics side of tracking and measuring. And like I said before, this isn't just something that you do once a year. My strong advice is that this is a calculation that should be happening quarterly, and a quarterly deep dive, but a monthly tracking process should be in place for Net PPM. And as an Amazon account lead, you should be able to identify what are the SKUs or the ranges that are challenging the Amazon Net PPM, and almost finding root outcomes and to what you can do to make sure that this isn't challenging Amazon.
Before we get into the pitfalls and solutions, I want to go back to the definition a little bit there. Just you mentioned a couple of different terms, and it'd be great just to get a few examples of those for those that are not sort of managing that relationship with Amazon, whose bread and butter this is. Particularly around, I think you mentioned kind of trading terms, and the other term that you used, I think it was sale discounts or promotional discounts, or do you mind just elaborating that? Conceptually, I think we understand what that means, but what is it? Can you make it real for us in the context of an Amazon vendor?
Sure. Your trading terms is the investment that you're putting into driving your business forward with Amazon, and that could be through co-ops, payment terms. You might have damage allowances in there. These are regular terms with Amazon. The cost of, if you have an AVS, will be in there. This is trading terms that you have, standardized trading terms with Amazon. Sales discounts is any discounts that you offer on top of the cost price, your COGS to Amazon, and that could be promotions could be taken into consideration. It might be sales out allowances that you might add on to for a period of time.
Understand. So this is the funding part of when Amazon discounts. What portion of that discount is the vendor actually funding in that sense?
Yeah.
And just to be really clear, I think I know the answer, but just in case others are wondering, any advertising spend is completely outside of this, right?
Separate P&Ls. And, I've sat in lengthy meetings with Amazon where I have one pot of investment, and that pot of investment also takes into consideration Amazon advertising and promotions and any on-site marketing spend that I want to do. And I sit with my vendor manager and I say to them, I only got one pot of money. Tell me how to distribute it. The reality is Amazon advertising is a complete separate part of the business, and therefore it doesn't go towards their net PPM. It doesn't go part of their total P&L. And so therefore businesses do need to treat Amazon advertising as a complete separate area as well.
Very interesting. And I imagine some of the vendor managers are trying to get very creative to tap into some of those marketing budgets to try and get them as co-op payments in return for some other sort of exposure on the platform, trying to tap into that.
That's another topic I'm sure we could unpack as well.
Yeah, no, that's the dynamics there. Look, you mentioned a lot about tracking net PPM at an account level and ASIN level. Of course, that's now possible inside Retail Analytics, inside the vendor platform, if you have sufficient access, I should say. And of course, also Merchant Spring, but I won't plug our platform too much. But let's get into kind of solutions and pitfalls. Let's talk about the negative first. So I'm a vendor, I'm not managing my net PPM. It's declining, I'm below category average. What are the downsides? What am I facing into here?
Immediately, at a product level, your products could be crapped out. And I'm sure many of you have heard this term before. Crapped means can't retain a profit or realize a profit, I think it's what it truly stands for. And that is when Amazon just delist your product from the catalog, and so you won't receive purchase orders from it. Another huge impact is by not ensuring that Amazon's net PPM is healthy. Amazon don't have the ability to compete in the buy box area, so your products could lose at Amazon retail level. They would lose the buy box. Now, that could also then trigger the Amazon algorithms to lower your organic page ranking, which of course has a huge impact on the visibility of your products. And there is also other areas like Amazon advertising. If you're not tracking net PPM and you're then investing in huge levels of Amazon advertising, what you're in danger of doing is almost wasting money in products that are then going to be delisted by Amazon or are in danger of being delisted by Amazon. So you're wasting your money.
So you're really swimming against the current if you are below the category average and going south. Not a great place to be. Which gets us on to...
Sorry, Paul, I just want to add one more thing onto that, and that is understanding and managing your net PPM, without a shadow of doubt, has a direct impact on your products and your brands. But it's also about your relationship and your partnership with Amazon. That is an important aspect to address here. When vendor managers are working with brands, they're not just looking at the relevance of your products and brands in the market segment. They're also looking to see if, are you being accountable for the net PPM that you're delivering for Amazon, and almost, are you an easy business to work with? And if you are, look, there is no easy triggers to say that you can almost guarantee Amazon 35% net PPM. It's almost ludicrous to say that as a statement. So I'm not sitting here being gospel to say that that's what you have to do. What I'm saying almost here is, it's important that you as a business are understanding the importance of this and the dangers of what could happen if you're not managing this effectively.
And just in terms of that management, and I appreciate a lot of vendors. I mean, there's a big discussion going on LinkedIn around, who still has a vendor manager and sort of managing things algorithmically. But let's say you still have access to a vendor manager. What does the dialogue around Net PPM look like in terms of frequency? Is it part of quarterly business reviews? What in practice, what does it look like, Esha?
Yeah. It's an internal and there's an external conversation to be had here. Internally, I, as an old Amazon account lead, what I would be doing is working with an analyst of some sort to be tracking net PPM on a monthly basis and having at least quarterly deep dives onto this. If you have the luxury of an AVS, I would be having internal quarterly reviews on the net PPM to understand from an Amazon's perspective, what are the products that are specifically driving lower net PPM for my brand.
Makes sense. So let's talk about initiatives. Let's talk about what is in the remit and in the control of the vendor in order to manage the net PPM. What does the toolkit look like here as a vendor?
So what I would say is, you've got access to Vendor Central and reporting, but at a line level and at product level, your own COGS. You should know what your terms are. You should know this, and to be able to compile a regular reporting to be able to allow you to track it is really important. Average selling price is something I'd also take into consideration, which is data that is available through vendor as well.
So let me kind of rephrase the question and talk about, I guess, more of the actions, which is, let's say my vendor manager is challenging me to get to a 35% net PPM at a total vendor account level. I'm sitting at 33 or 31, hypothetically speaking.
That's good, by the way. I wouldn't be worried so much.
Yeah. Okay, let's say 25. Let's say 25. 19. Let's do electronics, 5%. How can I build a plan as a vendor? What options do I have?
Right, root cause analysis. I would unpack this. So let's do some root cause analysis into what's driving a reduction on Amazon's net PPM. And by the way, it's okay if as a business you investigate some of these challenges and decide that you can't do anything about it. I just want to say that there is always a balanced view to this. I would start looking at Amazon's pricing policy. So we know Amazon are the greatest price matchers in the market segment and do not lead on price. I would try to start unpacking and understanding who are they price matching in the market segment. Because if you were to look at your own COGS plus Amazon's margin plus terms, you'd be able to rough and tough say that what should the net PPM be. Something's driving it lower. What is driving it lower? There is plentiful of great softwares that you can look at managing tracking buy box percentages, and I would highly recommend looking at buy boxes. Looking at, is that the third-party marketplace a problem for you? So channel management. Who are you selling to? What is the prices that are being sold to? And have you got a channel management policy in place, or a strategy actually, to see where Amazon is price matching? Because that's probably one of the biggest reasons. The other things I would do is looking at specific products that are driving the net PPM lower. And is this low ASP items because it's having a big impact on your entire portfolio? Is it specific products that are causing the net PPM to be driven lower? If this is the case, there needs to be a strategy that can be put into place. Is it you need to move them over to a hybrid model? Is it there is a bigger channel management strategy that needs to be implemented? Root cause analytics is the big message that I want to deliver here. You know, it's really easy for Amazon to say our net PPM is challenged. Let's first go and do a bit of digging to understand what is driving that and how can you go about fixing it.
It's portfolio management, I guess is what you're saying. And it just strikes me that the average pricing as well, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. We get a lot of questions around, we want to be able to track the average price that a product is sold for a particular ASIN over time inside the vendor central. That makes sense because you want to see to what extent is Amazon actually discounting your product. And obviously that's going to take a really big chunk out of the net PPM. I thought, you know, perhaps what's even more interesting is how you bundle that with advertising, because you may be creating some really healthy profit and be optimizing for that through your PPC software in the back end. Whereas, you know, you're kind of driving your net PPM down between you and Amazon, which is really interesting dynamic. Wow, that's crazy. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that, you know, it might sound as if, you know, we're all pro Amazon net PPM, but there is a real context piece here. And the context piece is, do you value Amazon as a retailer of your products and brands? And if you value Amazon as a retailer for your products and brands, we are in this new realm of trading with Amazon, which is driven out of profitability, and you're in danger of your products being crapped out. You do have to look at this. Now, you know, there is no magic answer here. So, you know, understanding the importance of it, if we're really summarizing some of these aspects. Tracking, managing, and reporting. Let's not bury our head in the sand. You know, we know it's important. You know, how do you use the tools that are available to you to track, manage, and report on it on a regular basis, and understand at ASIN level and an account level what are the challenges that are causing it. Also, then understand what the impact is if you don't do anything about it. Now, there are then, I'd say, solutions. There are temporary levers and long-term levers. And if you might be in a situation where products are being discounted in the market segment due to challenges that you've had at distribution level, and therefore there's nothing you can do about it, and Amazon is price matching, which is having a direct impact on the net PPM. Do you have a look at potentially giving them some additional funding to stop their net PPM being depleted even further, whilst you go and try and fix some of the distribution problems that you've got? That could be a temporary lever. Or do you look at long-term solutions where you then look at removing certain ASINs from that product mix entirely and moving them over to a hybrid model potentially?
Yeah, makes sense. Wow, very big topic here. Really, the heartbeat of, I guess, of the relationship between the Amazon vendor and Amazon itself. Very insightful. Now, I do want to tell the audience that we actually got some time for Q&A, and actually, I'm looking. Part of the reason I'm looking distracted, I'm looking at the questions flooding in on the right-hand side of my screen here. But
Yes.
if you do want to ask a question, please pop it in the LinkedIn comments chat, and we've got about 5 minutes left, so we're going to try and see how many we can get through. So if you don't mind, Asha, I'm going to pick a question to start off with and go from there. The first one actually is really easy. Thanks for your insights, Asha. Are you recording me? Yes, we are, and we will send out the recording shortly. So yes, it will be available both here on LinkedIn, YouTube, and on our on-demand page as well. So that was an easy one. We got that one out of the way. All right, let's go to Anne Warner. Thanks for submitting a question, Anne. Anne asks, you mentioned 30-40% net PPM category average. Does that vary by category, and do you have any resources to determine by category? I guess what she means is, what are the different category targets as such? I think you mentioned this briefly at the start, but it'd be great to elaborate.
Yeah, so every category will have its range of net PPM that it's focusing on. In rough and tough, it varies between 30 and 40%, and it very much depends on hard lines and soft lines as well. If you look at electronics, I know you made a tongue-in-cheek comment there, Paul, but I do not expect any electronic category to be wanting 30 to 40% net PPM. It would be ludicrous, and I would be very rich and would go and trade in electronics if I was able to do that. So, I think there are certain categories that, are quite obvious that Amazon's expectations of net PPM will be a lot lower. However, there will be less mature categories where I'm sure they have higher expectations on net PPM. I am racking my brain, and I'm sure I'll come up with a category in a moment that I'll be able to give you an example for. But rough and tough is anywhere between 30 and 40%.
Yeah, I would have thought some of the apparel and fashion categories will be closer to sort of the 50 to 60.
Yep. Good shout.
Yeah. Certainly from my broader retail point of view. Actually, there's a question here from Debbie. Thank you for submitting your question, Debbie, which actually relates. Just wondering how you determine the net PPM per category. So it's really about, how do we get visibility of this as a vendor manager? Of course, there's a great plug here for Merchant Spring to do that. But for those that are not Merchant Spring users, how can you get to this?
I would ask your vendor manager the question. And I also appreciate that you might not have a vendor manager, but at terms negotiations, if you have somebody in any of these various programs that you may be linked with, like the Stellar program or something like that, ask the question: what is the category average net PPM that you're trying to get to Amazon? And they'll give you that. Rough as a rule of thumb, anywhere between 30 and 40 sounds about right.
Awesome. Okay, I think we've maybe time for two more. There's a big one here from Addis. Let me read it out. Trying to maintain positive margins for clients and Amazon at the same time is very challenging. Yes, absolutely. Would you prioritize pushing ASINs with healthy net PPM or push ASINs that are best sellers based on order revenue to support the sell-in? The latter means clients are happy as Amazon keeps raising purchase order each week, but Amazon most likely won't be as happy.
This is a loaded question. And I'm sure I'd love another consultant with me to answer this question, simply because I think it's a question based on opinions more so than anything else. Look, in my opinion, I would probably push products that have a healthier net PPM for Amazon. And I would probably be very creative with what I do with my best sellers. For example, I would use peaks and troughs to make sure that they are still sold through vendor. And it doesn't almost matter if there is a reduction in net PPM, because don't forget, it's a blended mix of margin that is delivering over a period of time. And potentially have the product, those best sellers, selling through the hybrid model to almost turn on and off where appropriately. So just some tactics on this. This is no clear-cut answer, and I'm sure there are plenty of other Amazon consultants that would answer this maybe differently. But knowing the state of retail and where we're at in the relationships and the space of Amazon at the moment, if you have a long-term vision and a long-term strategic partnership with Amazon, the short answer is focus on driving healthy net PPM for Amazon. There is some long-term benefits for that.
Great answer, Asha. I was just going to add my little bit around, and only from what I observe in terms of what we see through our own platform, that in some instances, Amazon does have a choice in terms of where it sources its products and how it fulfills orders, right? So particularly if there's a distributor there, it's in play that fulfills the same product, or Amazon is sourcing inventory from another country at a lower cost, you can obviously push Amazon in that direction if there is a higher net PPM opportunity for them. You know, they'll be acting as a rational being. I would.
The only thing I'd add to that is it will be interesting to see how that unpacks over the next 12 to 18 months with their new policy with distributors. So, you know, not all is lost here for you as a vendor, because Amazon is cutting out distributors too. So sometimes they're not going to have that portfolio and wealth of prices to almost pick from. But I hear what you're trying to say here, Paul, and I agree.
Let's go to the last question. It's submitted by Greg, and I think it's a great way to finish off the session today. I've previously experienced a vendor manager undermining the accuracy of the net PPM reporting within Vendor Central. Very good question. Are vendors and vendor managers looking at the same set of numbers? Great question, Greg. Thank you for that.
It's a really good question, Greg, and the answer to that is no. No Vendor Central data is accurate versus what your vendor manager gives you, and the bases are always different. So when you think you've got your numbers completely accurate, you go into a meeting, it's wrong. So I don't have the magic bullet or the magic answer to that, Greg, other than trust the data that your vendor manager is giving you and use that as the benchmarks and basis and work from that.
The other thing I would add, and this might just be pure spiel, but one of the rationale that Amazon used for rolling out its new retail analytics is the argument to say everyone's looking now at the same numbers, both your vendors and the vendor managers. I don't know to what extent that's be true, and many of you don't have a vendor manager, so it becomes kind of an irrelevant topic.
But I have also experienced pulling net PPM reporting in Vendor Central and it being different to my own reporting. So, Greg, I feel your pain. I don't have an answer to that. Let's work to rough and tough numbers between 30 and 40%. And I know 10% is a big gap, right? But, you know, understanding what is that number, and if you can show through your data that you think rough and tough, the net PPM is rough and tough there, shouldn't really have a problem. And, you know, that actually might be a great way to almost leave this as a kind of goodbye comment. But net PPM isn't need to be measured and managed to its complete percentage accuracy. This is understanding the importance of net PPM and a rough and tough benchmark between to stay within. And if you can see that your brand and your portfolio of products are as low as 25%, you have a problem and you need to address that.
That's a great way to finish, Shah. Let's wrap it up there. We've gone well over the 30 minutes. I appreciate it's lunchtime for some of you, and I want to make sure I'm conscious of the limited window here. Thank you so much for sharing all your insights. I've certainly learned a lot. I now know what Net PPM actually stands for. More importantly, I know what CREP stands for. I keep seeing it on LinkedIn all the time, and it feels like I'm the only person who doesn't know what it actually means. So I do know that. So thank you so much. But more importantly, there may be people listening now or watching this after that are keen to get in touch with you, particularly as there's very few vendor managers around these days. What's the best way for them to get in touch, Asha?
So, you know, our company website is www.etopiaconsultancy.com, and my personal email address for anybody that would want to chat Net PPM, I'm always interested in having these conversations, is Asha, ASHA, @etopiaconsultancy.com. Nicely done on the screen there.
Yeah, I think I still had it there, actually. So, yeah, get in touch. Especially for those of you without vendor managers. So I've just flooded your inbox for the next couple of weeks, Asha. So apologies up front. Okay, that is great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Asha. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise. Thank you to our audience for all your great questions, and my sincere apologies to those of you where we didn't get to answer your question. We'll try and do our best through the LinkedIn comments after. Until the next episode, this is a wrap. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time. Thank you and goodbye.